Edit starts here.
Welcome to Nerds Chatting, movie, TV, comic chat. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome everybody to the Nerds Chatting podcast. My name is Nate, and with me are my two very good friends, Ben and James. Hello, boys.
Hello.
Hi.
This is a trailer for the next season of Nerds Chatting podcast. They're coming soon. So welcome new listeners, welcome old listeners.
Right, start with explaining why we're doing a new season.
Well, I will. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to
Does
that.
that mean we've had a season finale?
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
we
which of that ghosts.
Does that mean one of us dies?
So
Twist at the end was incredible.
yeah. So anyway, for any new listeners, you've just got an insight into what the podcasts are like. I'll try to be professional, and these two lovely gentlemen step in.
And are we going to take that?
I don't care. It's
Really?
fine. It's
Are
So-
you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Around about this time of year, every so often we have a little meltdown and go, oh, we should do something different. I don't know. So this year we've decided we're gonna change again. We're gonna change our format of our podcast. We're gonna stop doing what we usually do or have done in the past. If you've listened to the old ones, so we'll do broken news, which is news that's happened recently. We'll do a nerd scene, which is explaining the stuff that we've watched or read, and then we'll have a topic, which is generally something we've seen in the cinema or read, or it's a focus and a review. So in the spirit of trying to record podcasts that are more open to listeners, so perhaps in the past we might have recorded one about The Walking Dead,
Yes.
but not everyone has seen The Walking Dead, so not
They
everyone
should
is
know.
open to be able to see that.
They should know.
There, yes.
I'm going to use another example. Or if we talk about Doctor Who, or if we talk about Game of Thrones.
Yes.
There's a very nice chap who lives in the northern east part of England called Jim, who just falls asleep straight away.
Exactly. So in the spirit of trying to open this up to more nerds and have the conversation wider, we're going to focus now in the future our podcasts on topics that are broader, most people have some input or some knowledge of, and we're going to develop ideas around those things. So without further ado, we thought we'd go through our list and see if people are interested in what we're going to talk about over the next year or so. And yeah.
Yeah. From what I'm getting here, this will probably take us up to about Christmas.
Nah, we'll be fine. There's some ideas in here. So.
Should we say that every now and then we might revert to previous podcast format type?
We'll definitely need to do some reviews along the way because there'll be some big things that come out. For example, this year we already said Fantastic Beasts 2 is coming out. That's a big release.
Yeah.
Also, Aquaman is out.
Yeah.
Or Aquaman is out in December. So when those big events happen, Avengers 4 happens next year. We're going to obviously have to do some reviews of those. Otherwise, our brains will explode from not being able to talk about them. But generally speaking, we're going to try and focus on some interesting, broader topics.
Meaty topics.
So
or
shall I?
Vegetable topics.
Oh, vegetable
topics.
You mean forgettable?
Yes. I don't know what I'm talking about.
So I've written a list here, and we started going through it earlier. We had podcast planning. We had a little brunch, didn't we?
I think it was lovely.
Yeah.
It was nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
You could see a picture of it online.
Yes, you can.
Check out Twitter.
Post it on
Yeah.
Twitter.
But we didn't get to the bottom of it, so I thought we'd
Maybe I'll post it on Instagram.
yeah, maybe, yeah. So the first on the list I've got is cosplay. What's right, what's wrong, and why do it? And JB, you straight away were like, well, isn't there an underbelly of cosplay with some people who sort of take it too far, or at least fans of it maybe take it too far?
Yeah.
So that's something to discuss there.
I think so.
Almost politics of it.
Probably, or how it's, people, I guess, I don't know a lot about cosplay, so I'm going to probably have to do a bit of reading, but as I said, most of it that I see are people wanting to enjoy dressing up as their characters from whatever, but then is also another line of people dressing up with very little.
Yeah, absolutely,
And,
yeah. But there's not just
I'm,
that.
I'm just going
Well, it's that's the thing to discuss. It's about super fans, why those super fans want to dress as they do, and we know some good people, really, really great people who do some cosplay, some great cosplay. Ben, you've got experience of doing cosplay yourself.
I did it once. I did it last year. I created myself. It was a really poor effort. I did the best I could, and I'm not very creative at all. But I did a Mandalorian sort of helmet and a little bit of armor sort of templates using various different Boba Fett or Jango Fett templates you can download yourself online.
And so we can talk about why you did that and how you felt about doing it and what the reactions were to you doing that. So that's something we can discuss.
Sure, yeah.
Sounds cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still got the helmet, by the way.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Do you wear it from time to time?
I would.
Only if I'm feeling saucy.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
See,
Sorry.
this is
There
what
you go.
See,
Moving on.
Ben's just hit my point.
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So the next one I got is a bit more generic, the DC heroes. So the question here I have is, why do the Trinity stand above the rest? And by the Trinity I mean Superman, Wonder Woman and Batman. And that there's even been a comic called Trinity about those three. They are...
There still is a comic called Trinity.
Exactly. They're considered the kind of the central heroes in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
So why do they stand above? You know, did they come first? Do they have more fans? Why are they more popular? Those sorts of things I think is worth talking about.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could get
Could
some
you-
stuff out of that, I think.
You could also bring in that discussion, although it's about the Trinity, has to discuss the other side characters, air quotes side characters, you know, Arrow, Flash, Cyborg, Supergirl, those characters who are clearly interesting, have really great stories to be told, but maybe don't get the limelight.
No, that's true.
The Justice League,
Oh,
you
took
could
the
say
words
is-
from my mouth, Ben. I was about to bring out the Justice League.
well, you could say the Justice League has a core group of members, but from time to time that membership changes, and sometimes Martian Manhunter is in there, and sometimes
Sure.
he's not. Sometimes there's a Green Lantern in there, and sometimes they're not. So why is it that the Trinity are always those three? Why isn't there a different Trinity? Why isn't there a Trinity of the Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman or others?
To be discussed.
There you go.
So-
nice.
Teasers.
Flipping to the other one of the big two, Marvel. So I wrote down originally Marvel's scales of power, and I was talking about how, focusing on the movies, but with the comics in the back of my mind, how you start with someone like Iron Man, who has this incredible suit, which is clearly more powerful than any army that exists. Then you escalate it to Thor, and he's a godlike power. As soon as he gets the hammer at the end, he can defeat anyone. Then you have to have another villain. You've got Loki with the staff. You've then got Ultron, who seems unstoppable and can only be stopped by the power of Vision and everyone else combining together. Then you've got Thanos. It's about scales of power and how it evolves. But when we were talking about it, Ben brought the quote from Vision that their very strength invites challenge. So I thought that what we'd call that is the Marvel characters' scales of power and strength inviting challenge. So there's something to be discussed in there about what the limit of that is and why it's required, and with Captain Marvel coming on board.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. There's a potential spoiler for Avengers 4 in that discussion, I think.
I think you might be right.
Because if you look at the Iron Man armour, it's evolved in every movie. It's always different.
Yes.
And in the last movie, it's as bleeding edge, I think, as you could possibly make it.
Yeah.
Pun completely intended there.
Yeah.
I think there were some words in the Russo brothers to say that is as far as Iron Man can develop his armour.
Interesting. So I think it's
Yeah,
interesting. It's an interesting debate to have about.
There's a maximum somewhere, but why is it they're not using their maximum? I guess you learn from defeating people and saying, I think this is the best I can be, but then something else comes along and you go, actually, I've just learned from that, now I'm going to do this.
I'm going to level up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go,
Yeah.
press
Level
the
up.
button to level up.
So then, James, you came up with a really, really great topic. We're talking about this about movie characters, and I've written movie characters, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can be TV, comic book, cartoons. But the evolution of the perception of power and the societal changes around that. And the example you gave, I think, was brilliant about RoboCop.
Yes.
So in the 80s, it was appropriate that RoboCop was like a robot and walked really stiffly and was limited by his power. The remake of that RoboCop required that the character could jump and flip and run and
somersault.
Yeah.
Do whatever it was,
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting
Yes.
because what I guess a bit like the power thing, robots have moved on more and more and more. I mean, what was it? I think I saw something recently where there was somewhere in Japan, a university or something, where they had this robot that could just walk over things.
Yeah.
Self-aware,
Yeah.
there was
Self-aware?
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
No, but aware of its surroundings.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
AI technology.
Yeah.
There's another one recently, I don't know if you saw, but there was robots working together to overcome obstacles.
Yes.
That was really interesting, I
So-
thought. So,
Oh, yeah, when they try to open a door or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary,
But
but
that-
it's really interesting.
But
About,
because that's the norm, right?
That's how society would be. I think randomly. I don't know if this is connected. So I was down 4th Street in Exeter with my eldest daughter. Walked past a shop and I saw typewriters. And I showed my daughter. I said, "That's a typewriter." She looked at me and she's 6.5. She's like, "What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What is that?" I said, "Well, people used to type on this to do letters." And she's like, well, I've got my iPad for that.
That's really interesting, because I was looking at something the other day, and there was some academic who's doing children's books that talk to kids about computers and how they will help them through their life. And she was saying that the current generation of kids will probably be the last that have a keyboard and a mouse.
Yeah.
And future generations will be like, what is this archaic technology? Now it's all touchscreen, or I can blink and can look at, or what have you, to move things around. Great.
Lots to talk about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
So after that, then we talked about flicking back to comic books, a comic book character, Deadpool, and the Deadpool movies. And the value of stepping outside genre is the subtitle for that. And what I mean by that is Deadpool is more or less the same character as Wolverine when you boil him down to his most basic form. He's a mercenary fighter, hero, anti-hero who can heal.
Yes.
And has blades. That's his signature thing, right? He has swords. Wolverine has the blades that come out. But the movies have taken what the comics did with breaking the fourth wall, with making gore and action that is really, turned up very high.
Yeah.
Making it funny, or making it the first movie. The whole movie is one action scene,
Pretty much, yeah.
cut together with flashbacks.
Yep.
So that it, in its own tiny little way, the movie has turned the superhero genre around, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
And I think there are some things to discuss about that.
Yeah,
So,
I think so.
Deadpool, and I think there's side stuff around that. The next one we talked about, we're going to talk about, and we started talking a lot about this at breakfast this morning, was Star Wars and the politics of the Jedi. I think this is a really great podcast topic.
I think so. I also don't want to go too much into it, because I would like to understand what the listener, if we say that, what the listeners think as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we're all going to have, well, actually, I think we're going to have very similar opinions. I think, because I think when we spoke about it, I'm going into it now, and I said exactly what
it's
I
fine.
wanted.
It's okay.
But we kind of were all in semi agreement about what we thought of it.
Yeah.
But then I think we then kind of went off on our own little tangents to say, well, I think this, I think that.
Because they're monks, they're religious, they're cultists, they have their own rules, but who says those rules are right? They're an army, but they're not.
Yeah.
They dictate, but they don't. There's a lot of stuff in there to talk about. So, the next one on the list is Star Trek, and the subtitle I've written is Diversify or Die. And now there's a lot in here to unpick, and I think this could be quite a lengthy discussion when we have it.
Okay.
Well, the intent was that to look at the original concept from Gene Roddenberry to say that ship should have been an amalgamation of all the different races, beings, societies, everything that you could possibly be put together in their ship, and it was supposed to be heralded as a great multicultural experience for the viewers and for the internal characters. Interestingly, though, that has kind of maintained its status quo without changing with society. By now, that ship should be full of aliens.
Yes.
But it's not. Things to discuss. Ben's stroking his beard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Are the Federation human racists?
Maybe. So, moving on. Next one on the list.
Well,
now,
every single person in position of power on a starship in the original TV shows was a human.
Yes.
and now, very much so, still
Yeah.
that way. Let's not just get
Let's
into it
leave
now.
it- let's
So
park
this is
that
the
one
point.
there.
We could talk
Park
about
it
this.
there.
Yeah, okay.
So now we're getting into the list.
Outright.
We're now getting into the list that we haven't talked about this morning. But so we'll skim through these quite quickly. I think
Sure.
we don't want to touch them too much. The next one is Batman, the benefit of family. Now Batman is portrayed quite often in the biggest versions of him as being a sort of a lone wolf. He's the hunter in the night. You know, it's drop down from the shadows. You don't know if it's him. You don't know anything, and then he disappears again. In the comics, much more, there is a focus on the Bat family. There are 4 Robins?
Sure.
At least 4 Robins. Batwoman, Batgirl. There's who the one that was Batgirl that then became something else, who has the dark.
Huntress?
No, Cassandra Cain.
Oh.
Black Bat. I think she's called Black Bat.
Yeah, possibly. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
So there's a whole thing about family there and what that brings to Batman's life. I wanted to just talk about those characters themselves.
Okay.
It's actually one of his biggest weaknesses in the comic books, because he knows that they're all good enough and they're all trained up enough to work on their own. However, he will do anything to protect them. So he'll let them go off and do their own thing. You know, not that he has to let them go off, but he does. But at the same time, that can be his relationship with those people can be exploited and has been exploited by the Joker in Death of the Family. So, good.
That's actually linked in with Arrow as well,
Yep.
in terms of I've put myself in solitary confinement. It's all about me. I'm not going to do anything else. I don't want to know anyone else because this is my fight. And then he realises that he can't do it by himself,
Yep.
and then has to have. So having more people to help you is great, but then the caring element of that character is worried about all the people behind it.
Yep. Yeah, stuff to talk about.
Good.
Next on the list is Harry Potter and the Wizarding World, because I think this is wider than just the Harry Potter series. But the thing I've written here now, this could get really dicey.
Okay, let's just go steady with this.
Well then, mate. Well,
It's a question, right? So it has a question mark at the end. Slavery and racism are fine? Question mark?
So this is in the universe of the Wizarding universe because you have house elves, because you have...
The wizards are superior to all other beings who are sentient or not. Centaurs and giants and
They
hippogriffs.
sound like Jedi.
Yeah, but there's something in there to discuss, all right? So, and especially as J.K. Rowling is a very, very strong advocate of
human
rights
rights
and socialism and things like that, you know? So, yeah, I think we need to discuss that.
That'd be fun.
Next one on the list, Monsters and Robots, King of the Imagination. Now, what I mean by this is a bit wide and out there, but this is Pacific Rim, this is Godzilla, this is big stumpy robots from anime, this is RoboCop, all those sorts of things. Monsters and robots coming together and smashing each other in the face, and why we like that and why that sparks our imagination.
Okay.
I'll be honest, it doesn't spark mine at all.
Good discussion point though, but why? We can talk about that. Don't tell me now, but we can discuss that.
Yeah,
At the same time, I really did enjoy Kong, King of the Kong.
Part of it, right? Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Kong Skull Island.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there were big giant monsters punching each other in the face in
I
that film.
know, and I actually did enjoy that one. But
Yeah.
normally I don't. Anyway, yes. Good.
And Godzilla King of Monsters, the trailer is superb.
Sure, I haven't seen it.
Yes, you have.
Probably not.
You have seen it. We talked about it on this podcast.
Have I seen it?
Yes.
Oh, is it because there's lots of
Other monsters.
Yes,
King
yes.
Ghidorah comes up with the 3 heads, and
Yes, I
Rodan
have
flies
seen
over, and everything burns, and Mothra's in it, and his wings blow up. And
Mumra? That's
Mothra.
the Thundercat. Okay.
Looks amazing. Looks like one of the best films coming up next year.
Sure,
Okay.
I'll check it out.
Okay, next one. We're going to focus on Marvel again. Hulk. Primal power versus intellectualism.
Ooh.
This is good. I like this.
Yeah.
Primal power. I love that phrase.
Because
Yeah.
the Hulk, right, it is his strength is limitless. The angrier
Is
he
it?
gets,
Is
the
it?
stronger he gets.
That is
And that's
supposed to be his power set.
right. Okay.
But that is not always going to get him out of a bad situation.
No, because he just can't smash.
Yeah. Sometimes Bruce Banner is the right person for the job.
But
Absolutely.
Question though, as you've seen the Hulk character develop through the Avengers and his own movies.
Yeah.
There seems to be now, in my opinion, there seems to be more a cross between a conscious being between the two,
Yes.
whilst they're in their separate forms.
Yes, absolutely. And
So the coin needs to be not on one side or the other,
well,
but stood up.
the comic versions, if I may, the comic
That's
versions.
the evilest
that
laugh
is,
I've
yeah.
ever seen.
The comic versions of the Hulk, there are very different versions of them. Loads of different versions. There's the Jekyll and Hyde type monster. There's the Professor Hulk, is it called? I think who's smart. He's a smart one.
Yeah, Joe Fixit.
Joe Fixit, who's kind of a bit like he's a normal guy, but he's in the Hulk form.
This sounds like a Hulk for all occasions.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I'm just going to bring up Professor Hulk.
Exactly right. So there's stuff to talk about there, right?
Definitely.
Yes.
Next one online, we'll flip back to DC. Black Suit Superman, obsession with falling from grace. Everyone who likes superheroes seems to think Superman in the black suit is the coolest shit in the world.
I don't know anything about this, sorry.
But you've seen him in a black suit, right?
Yes.
And he looks friggin' cool.
Different colours, yeah.
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 Why? Why is it interesting to see this big, bright blue Boy Scout suddenly become the dark, brooding, is he evil? Is he a good guy? What's happened? Why is it cool? Why are we interested in that?
So it reminds people of Batman. And Batman is cool.
Right.
Maybe, Ben.
Maybe stuff to discuss there,
Yes.
right? And it's not just about Superman, it's about the idea of the heroes that we put on the pedestal and the Metroid-like situation. You know the game Metroid? You ever play that? So Metroid, you always start with all the powers and all the abilities, and then within the first level, you lose them all, and you have to go around the whole game collecting them up again, so you can level up, right? Same thing here. This is what happens. This is the story of Thor, the first Thor movie. He has to
level up.
He gets pushed down to Earth, down to the ground, and has to level up. So I think there's an interesting element there. Why are we interested in that? Don't tell me now.
I don't know why. I'm just remembering the Thor film where he walks into that pet shop and just shouts, "I need a horse!" Brilliant.
Okay, so the other side of that, though, the next one on this is Disney, the joy of colourful. We all pretty much love Disney. Most people love something about Disney. There are some Disney movies people don't like, but generally speaking, there is normally something someone really likes about Disney.
Yeah.
You've got Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty. Name some more for me. The modern ones. Frozen.
Are we talking Disney Pixar as well then?
Disney, anything Disney. Yeah. And I'm talking about these sort of animated heroes. Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, safe.
But it's all colourful. It's all bright. A discussion about why Disney's great and how it's lasted and how it's become such a monster of a production team studio.
It's lasted as long as it has because they now own pretty much
everything.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but why?
And I watched a really interesting, many moons ago, I say many moons ago, about 6-9 months ago, I watched a documentary about Walt Disney and how he came into how forward-thinking he was at the time around animation. And
James is leading that podcast.
He was a driven guy.
Yeah.
He absolutely was. So yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm not necessarily going to drive because I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
I've seen the Disney film Saving Mr. Banks.
Oh, lovely
Tom
that
Hanks
movie.
Plays, Walt Disney.
Right.
And it's great.
It is a great movie. It's all about Mary Poppins.
Yeah, the creation of the Mary Poppins film.
Yeah.
And how much the author, whose name escapes me right now, played by the British lady whose name also escapes me right now, Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson, and she plays. It's going to annoy me.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Blighton? No. Just making it up.
Sure, yeah, she played Enid Blyton in the Mary Poppins books, and she was very set in her ways, and she wanted the character. The character was a person to her.
P.L. Travers.
That's the one.
Yes.
Pamela Travers, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, it's good. It's
right.
Good. It's worth a watch.
A few more to go through. So next one, Iron Man.
Sure.
The relatable genius. What I want to talk about with that is how he has been the linchpin for the Marvel movies for us. Mm-hmm. He's the character that we all relate to some degree because he's the Batman in there. He's the human among all those sort of really super powerful people, right?
Yeah.
He's also a super genius billionaire. And we relate to that for some
Playboy
reason.
philanthropist.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So somehow, for some reason, we still imprint ourselves on him and understand his emotional turmoil and stuff. So I wanted to talk about that, how it's relatable, but at the same time, it is the most whimsical nonsense in the world.
Yeah.
Sure. Good.
Yeah.
Next one, Ben is going to have to lead on this one, but we do have some insight, is Doctor Who, leading secondary characters.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because I think that the companions in Doctor Who are actually the stars of the show, certainly in the last 10 years.
Very much so since New Who's come on, yeah. I don't know if I can even call it New Who anymore. It's been around since 2005 now.
That's not New Who.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's just Who.
But if you consider the the new run of Doctor Who as New Who, yeah, secondary characters, the companions or assistants as they were always called, rather sexistly back in the day. Yeah, they are more driving the story forward now. Good, very good.
There you go.
Rose, definitely. Oh, I loved Rose.
This next one is close to my heart. I like this one a lot. This one is X-Men. Bless you.
Might have more.
Hashtag pause for sneeze.
Yeah. Sort of
X-Men.
That's the topic. Yeah.
I'm gonna go kapow.
So X-Men, Magneto was right? Question mark.
Oh.
Because the run of X-Men that I really got into when I was reading was when there was a series called Utopia X, which was where all the X-Men all the mutants. It was after the House of M event in Marvel, and what that meant was that when everything got set back to normal, air quotes, there were very few mutants left in the world. I mean, there's a few hundred in the entire world. And Cyclops was the leader of the X-Men, and he set up a what do you call it? Like a commune, like a home for mutants. Refuge called Utopia X, and it was built on the fallen asteroid that Magneto used to use for the Brotherhood of Mutants. And things start to develop where Cyclops essentially more or less becomes the Magneto character from the very early run, where he was saying, well, hang on, we have to protect our own, we have to look after our own, we're not interested in the humans anymore.
Right.
So question mark, more or less, Magneto, is he right? Were they persecuted to destruction?
I would say that love is more powerful than
We'll get to it.
all, but whatever.
Wow.
We'll get to it. I think it's an interesting
What's
debate.
to do with it, Ben?
Everything.
The next one, you said, James, you wanted us to do a podcast about theme tunes and more than that, but about nostalgia from our past.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely, we should do one of those. Captain Planet and
Raccoons,
and hang on, what was
Old
the
Scooby-Doo.
what was the ones where they had Centurions, where they
Yes.
had the holograms on their chest?
Yes.
Mask, do you remember Mask?
Yeah,
MASK,
Crusaders, Fight Crime.
Yeah. All right, so we need to do one on that.
Yeah.
But then linked to the audio part of it was the music of superheroes. So I've put Power, Danger and Victory in that theme tunes of superheroes. Why do we like them? Why do they affect us? What's so powerful about them? And what do they suggest that's going on? Happy to do some of that?
Oh yes.
Oh, I love
Love a bit of that.
Love a theme tune.
Oh, I've just got John Williams' Superman theme tunes going through my head, and I've got goosebumps right now.
Brilliant.
I have goosebumps, actual goosebumps.
Worth talking about that. Okay, a few more. This one, prequels. The joy and the frustrations. And I just wanted to just talk about prequels and why they are made.
Any particular
what
type
we
of
like.
prequels, or just prequels as a
Prequels.
whole?
I think we should all bring to the table a few prequels, ones that we like, ones that we hate, ones that we think have no benefit, ones that build on the world.
Okay.
Has there been any good ones?
Well, let's debate, shall we? Big character here to talk about, but very, very focused topic. Spider-Man,
Oh.
mechanical web shooters versus organic.
Oh, that's good.
But the question it asks is Spider-Man more interesting as a super genius that can develop his own technology,
And that technology can run out just as he really needs it.
or is he more interesting as a being that has changed his physiology so much that he's more spider than man? And he's had both in films and TV. Films and comic books.
Wow.
Yeah.
I prefer a natural superhero. You know, I'll rephrase what I mean. Spider-Man has got the powers of like being a spider.
Yeah.
So spiders can't get rapid fire sort of web slingers. Just get your own web slinger. If you can fire it out quick enough, then you do it.
But he's basically a young Tony Stark if he can do it himself. If he can
Yeah.
build that himself.
Yeah.
But that's not. I guess in the films, it's not depicted like that at all. For me.
Well, in the new ones, it's both.
Yeah.
It's both.
Okay.
That's going to be a good topic.
Good topic.
I like
Okay.
that one.
Two more. Linked slightly to prequels. Reboots. The joy and the frustrations.
Oh.
Because you were talking again, James, about how are they going to remake? What we said about the original, the stuff from our childhood.
Yeah.
Would they remake Captain Planet, etc.?
Yeah.
So reboots that exist now, or maybe things that we think should be rebooted. What good ones have happened? What bad ones have happened?
Would we call Top Gun sequel coming out a reboot?
No, it's a sequel.
It's a sequel,
Well, then,
not a reboot.
What about Tron Legacy?
Sequel.
Same story though.
Sure.
It's all the same
Still a
story.
sequel.
Most reboots are basically the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
story.
yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. And the last one on here, which might be topical, The Walking Dead: The Legacy of Rick Grimes.
Yes.
Leave that one right there.
Yeah.
Let's not talk any more about that right now. For
I
fear
think
of spoilers.
Ben is going to be leading the troop.
I think you might be right.
He may be called Rick Grimes.
He
in this.
might. So there you go. So there's a flavour. I mean, a long flavour. That was nearly half an hour's worth of flavour of what we're going to be doing over the next few months. What do you guys think? Has got anything else you'd like us to discuss? Any topics you'd like us to delve into deeper?
Yeah, throw them out there.
Yeah, we'll be doing audience interaction, so we want some feedback as we do each week. We'll announce before we do it what we're going to do, and we'll get people to give us their thoughts, and I think we should scattergun them throughout the podcast
Yeah,
rather than just leaving it at the end.
Yeah.
Fine. Yes,
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
Good.
Great. Thanks very
Awesome.
much for listening, everyone, and I hope you listen in the future.
Nice.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.